Have you ever looked at your bird and just wondered what the world actually looks like through their eyes? Well, it turns out they're living in a completely different reality, one filled with colors we can't even begin to imagine. So let's dive into this hidden world of light and see what we've all been missing.
So let's just get right to it with the big question. Can your bird actually see things that you can't? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a comic book, right? But the science here is absolutely mind-blowing. And the answer? Well, it might just change how you see your feathered friend forever.
And the answer is a resounding yes. Your bird has a genuine superpower, the ability to see ultraviolet light. We're not just talking about a slightly different shade of blue. This is a whole extra dimension of color that unlocks a world completely invisible to us.
All right, so how in the world does this superpower actually work? Let's get into the biology behind this absolutely incredible vision. Okay, so it all comes down to a really cool scientific term, tetrachromacy. You see, we humans have 3 types of color receptors in our eyes. Birds, they have 4, and that 4th one is specifically tuned to see ultraviolet A light. Now just look at these numbers. We think we see a lot of color, right? About 1 million different shades? Birds, they can see up to 100 million. That is an explosion of color we literally cannot even comprehend. And you know, this isn't just for show. This ability is absolutely critical for their survival. Get this, a staggering 72% of parrot species have feathers that reflect UV light. This creates all these hidden patterns and signals that we can't see, helping them find the perfect mate or even just tell their friends apart in a crowd. It also helps them find ripe food and spot predators. It's a massive evolutionary advantage.
But seeing in UVA is only half the story. There's another type of UV light, UVB, that plays a totally different but just as vital role. It basically turns your bird into its own little solar-powered vitamin factory.
This process is it's brilliant. Okay, so here's how it works. First, there's a special gland near their tail that makes an oil. That oil has the building blocks for vitamin D in it. As the bird preens, it spreads this oil all over its feathers. Then, and this is the magic part, when UVB rays from the sun hit those oily feathers, a chemical reaction happens that turns those building blocks into active vitamin D3. Finally, the bird just preems itself again and ingests the very vitamin it just made on its own back. How cool is that?
Now, here's the really crucial part. This natural system is perfectly self-regulating. Once the bird has made enough vitamin D3, the body just stops. The system has a built-in off switch, which makes it impossible to overdose. This is a huge contrast to just adding vitamins to their food, where you can accidentally give too much and cause a serious, and I mean serious, health problem called hypervitaminosis D. Nature's way is simply smarter and safer.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's all very interesting, but does it really matter if my bird gets its vitamins from light versus from its food? Well, a recent study looked at that exact question, and frankly, the results are pretty stunning.
So back in 2022, researchers set up this clever experiment. They took 2 groups of chickens. One group got all their vitamin D from a supplement in their food. The other group got to make their own, naturally, by basking under a UVB lamp. But here's the genius part. They made sure that both groups ended up with the exact same level of vitamin D in their blood. This way, they could see what the light itself was doing, completely separate from the vitamin.
And wow, this chart right here tells a huge piece of the story. They tested how well the chickens could walk under stress, which is a big indicator of their overall welfare. Now, the important thing to know here is that for this gait score, a lower number is actually better. And as you can plainly see, the chickens that got UVB light scored much, much lower. They were healthier and more resilient. This tells us that UVB light is providing benefits that go way beyond just vitamin levels.
I mean, the researchers said it best themselves. This quote from the study shows that the UVB light directly improved their feather development and quality. The light itself was doing something beneficial that the vitamin in the food just couldn't replicate.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. What does this study on chickens in a lab have to do with your parrot sitting in your living room? Well, turns out, everything. The exact same principles are at play.
The connection is so direct. The bird in your home runs on the exact same ancient biological software as those chickens in the lab, but by keeping them indoors with us, we've inadvertently cut them off from one of the most essential pieces of their natural world.
And this, right here, is the core problem for basically every single companion bird owner out there. We might think that a nice sunny spot by a window is perfect, but it's not. Standard window glass is basically a UV force field. It's designed to block almost all of those beneficial UVA and UVB rays. So even if your bird is sitting in a sunbeam, it's living in ultraviolet darkness. All right, so we've got the problem. Now, what's the solution? How do we give our birds back this light that they so desperately need? Well, it's a little more complicated than just screwing in a new bulb. Let's talk about how to do it the right way.
First, let's cover some really common and potentially dangerous mistakes. We already know the window thing is a myth, but using the wrong type of bulb is a huge risk. Some can actually produce harmful types of UV. Another critical mistake is not giving your bird an escape zone, a shady spot where it can get away from the light. And this last one is so easy to forget. The bulbs wear out. Their UV output tanks after about 6 to 12 months, long before the visible light actually burns out. So you've got to replace them regularly.
Okay, so here's how to do it right. The absolute gold standard is real, unfiltered sunlight, whenever it's safe. Even just 20 minutes, a few times a week can make a huge difference. For an indoor setup, you have to use a bird-specific bulb that provides both UVA and UVB. Mount it over the top of the cage, not on the side. And this is key, create a gradient. Put perches at different distances so your bird can choose to get a lot of light or just a little. A good target for that main basking spot is a UV index of 2 to 4.
Take a look at this. This is a perfect example of what we're talking about. The light is overhead, and the bird has lots of perches and space to move closer or further away. The most important thing here is choice. The bird gets to decide how much light it needs. That's what mimics nature, and that's what makes it safe.
So, by understanding this one hidden aspect of their biology, we can literally brighten our birds' entire world. We can let them see in full, glorious color and help them stay healthy the way nature always intended. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets are our animals just waiting for us to see?